Time to go racing again this Saturday afternoon. Welcome to the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, located in Speedway, Indiana, which hosts the third round of the Ricmotech Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires, the iRacing eSeries that pits our best young talent up against each other virtually with all coverage on Apex Racing TV. We also want to welcome our Canadian audience from the MAVTV Motorsports Network around this 2.6 mile layout of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the road course version we'll be lapping around for today's action. It's a 4-kilometer circuit depending on your units of choice. Quite hot temperatures out there virtually that will be simulated with a little bit of cloud cover for 13 corners that will challenge the drivers around a road circuit that has been developed and evolved throughout the past couple of decades. Minimal elevation change though around here. And as usual, for every race that we've had for this campaign, it'll be 45 minutes of racing action coming up. Now, there'll be one mandatory pit stop required. The fuel won't make it to the finish that they start on, and we'll give you a deeper run of strategies in our pre-race coverage. From myself, Jonathan Simon, welcome to the broadcast. I'm alongside the voice of Road to Indy, Rob Howden. Rob, this is your third time out in the virtual world for the Road to Indy series, and we've had 2 thrillers. We're hoping to make it 3.
You know, Jonathan, I think like so many of the other guys that are involved or they're actually racing in this particular event, I've been able to kind of pick things up slowly. It's obviously not like announcing out in the real world, but it's been tremendous. And I think every driver, what's been super interesting is you see, Jonathan, all the drivers kind of getting a little bit better. And those who maybe had not been in the iRacing world before, now jumping into the game, they're kind of coming up to speed a little more slowly. What's interesting, though, is the drivers who have done well are stepping up. Obviously, Philippe Dennis, the driver running for RP Motorsports Racing this year in Indy Pro 2000. He's been the dominant factor. A couple of big race wins. He has the point lead, but there's other drivers stepping up, I think, trying to find some more speed that could challenge him at IMS here today.
And here's one of those drivers, Exclusive Autosports, Braden Eves. The young man was USF 2000 champion last year in the real world, Rob. And for this year, he hasn't had a chance to develop himself up in the ranks in the real world. But for virtually, this was a good chance for him to lap away and compete and keep his competitive face on.
Well, Braden's just one of those up-and-coming young American drivers destined for the NTT Indycar Series. A tremendous run last year to win that championship in the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship Series. He's an iRacer for sure, and he knows how to get around the track. And I watched a bunch of his practice sessions earlier throughout this week, and he's changed his driving style a little bit, kind of adapting to what this track needs. And it's an interesting track. I got a chance to get on it myself a little bit, Jonathan, and man, it's tough. There's a lot of parts of this track where you've got to carry a lot of speed. And this car, as we know, when you get off the throttle, it kind of gets a little tail happy. And that caught me out several times. And I think it's been a challenge for a lot of the drivers who are going to run here today as well.
Look how high he ran through the final corner there as he tries to gain as much speed here. And look at this right now. He's currently in second provisionally in qualifying. So while this takes place, we'll keep track of the qualifying standings and give you a rundown of today's action. Phil Dennis improves for the moment on pole position. Now, he's been the driver, Rob, that has absolutely dominated the campaign. His second best challenger has been Eduardo Barrichello. He's currently down in the 8th position for qualifying. Not a good start for Dudu's challenge here for round number 3.
Yeah, you're thinking about this championship battle. It's a 5-race series. We're right at the midpoint right now. So if anybody's really going to challenge Philippe Dennis, they better do it very soon. They've got to get going on it. Peter Dempsey's been strong as well, team owner for Turn 3 Motorsports in the Indy Pro 2000 category. Braden Eves, we know, has been very strong. Christian Brooks is a driver stepping things up. First year for USF 2000 for Christian, young driver to Santa Clarita, California for Exclusive Autosport. He had some issues with his pedals. In the first round, wasn't able to run, but he dialed things in and had a good top 5 finish at COTA. He's been very good in practice as well. Look for Christian Brooks to potentially be a podium runner here today.
Yep, definitely. So we have a lot of series sponsors to mention. Of course, Ricmotech sponsoring the Road to Indy. We're watching Christian Brooks here just make a mockery of the middle sector. So we're going to focus back on the sponsors. We're presented by Cooper Tires. iRacing is the simulator of choice as usual. We're powered by Extreme Motorsports 99. We've got a fastest lap of the race award to hand out later on. That's brought to you by TSOladder.com. Now, the pole winner award the last couple of weeks, Rob, which is presented by Symmetric Driver Performance Labs. That's gone to Peter Dempsey for round 1, Phil Dennis for round 2. So far, it looks like Dennis provisionally will take that award yet again.
Yeah, look how close that Braden Eves is, just 0.05 of a second off. Eves now P2, but Philippe Dennis, like you said, still leading the way.
So it's time to join Chaplain Chuck Lessick, who will offer today's invocation, and we'll see you on the other side of this.
Let's pray. God, thank you so much for technology and the opportunity that we have to gather today and be able to come together and watch this race. Father, we just thank you so much for the amazing talents that you have blessed these drivers with, and God, for the chance they have to showcase their talents to the world. God, we just pray over this race that we would have some fun today, that it would go smooth, and God, that it would just give us a moment to take a break from all the crazy happening all around us. And God, in this moment, we also just lift up all of those that are feverishly fighting against this virus. For all the doctors, the nurses, and those in the healthcare industry, God, we just pray for your hand of protection. We also ask that you would intervene in a mighty way. God, I thank you that we can ask all of this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
And now, our national anthem. Performing from Dallas, Texas, Russ Ruddock.
It's me, your Uncle Cooper, and this is a Cooper tire. Great tire. Now, it's not going to cook you a pot roast, but it will stop when you hit the brakes. And these truck tires can stop on average 10 feet shorter than other tires on a wet road. See, the trick is in the grip, and these tires grip like my handshake. Look, I'm your uncle. I love you. I want you to stop when you need to. Doesn't matter if it's for a red light or a duckling. So go with the Coopers. Cooper! And never start something you can't stop.
Well, we're about to get going for the race soon enough, and this race, Rob, will only include the top 28 drivers. The stewards have decided to cap the grid off at that mark, and that means the likes of Manuel Cabrera at the moment, and let's not forget Artem Petrov, who's yet to set a time, and I don't think will for the rest of the session. They will, at the moment, not make today's grid.
Yeah, it looks to be Cabrera still on the racetrack right now, qualifying as you see from the clock on the top left. Still some time to go. 3.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying run. A 122.298 fast lap for Philippe Dennis. Look at the top three, though, Jonathan. Within 0.09 of a second, Philippe Dennis, Braden Eves, and Andre Castro has been strong throughout the weekend as well.
Andre Castro deserves better after round one for sure. He's still lapping away, and he'll slot himself onto that second row alongside Dudu Barrichello. Now, again, Rob, look at the top 5 we have. Look, top 6. That's an insane grid that we're going to have for this race as Jacob Loomis here will round the final corner yet another time in qualifying. And the draft is going to play a big difference at this racetrack. It can, I mean, for those guys who are about 1 second off the pace, all the way down to Yuvan Sundaramurthy, you're still in with a shot in this race if you can keep in with the clutches of the draft.
Yeah, I had a chance to speak with Christian Brooks yesterday, and we talked exactly about that. He said this track, because of the long straightaways, they're actually the two longest straightaways that we run, two of the longest straightaways we run throughout the season as well, coming all the way, of course, out of the corner, then down the front straightaway here at IMS, and then on Holman Boulevard, which is a regular track road any other time but the GP weekend as they come to the infield part of that track over to turn number 7. These are long straightaways, the draft playing such a huge role, so you're right. Even if you're 6, 7, 8 tenths of a second off on sheer pace, if you're in the middle of a draft pack, you're going to be able to hang in there and keep racing. So I think that's definitely going to play a role before we're all said and done.
Yep, definitely. Now, this circuit layout, Rob, if you are confused with what the present-day Indianapolis road course layout is, we are as well. But this is what was laser scanned onto the iRacing service many, many years ago. And Rob, it's just good to see that at least Indy have got a road course available, and that's what's good enough for the moment, that we can race these cars when these drivers do in the real world on the road course.
Yeah, the only major difference is, of course, when you come out of turn number 4, we go through the chicane, which is then 5 and 6. That makes turn 7 the run at the end of the back straightaway. This time, instead, with the Formula One circuit circa 2012, we dive in at turn number 5, roll that corner speed to the right into the sweeping turn number 6 back to 7. And then, of course, in addition to what we don't do is the final corners. 11, 12, and 13, we're up on the banking, which is between turns 1 and 2, the short shoot at IMS, and they run all the way around the track through the final corner, which is turn 1 in the opposite direction. Normally, we turn back into the infield, and there's another little S section there that slows the cars down instead of coming all the way through turn number 1 here at the big track. It's an interesting layout for sure. Like I said, very challenging for the drivers because you have to carry so much corner speed, a lot of entry speed as well, and the cars get pretty squirrely. We saw a lot of drivers having issues with that during practice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those fans are social distancing in the stands for the moment, but there you go. There are a multitude of virtual fans out there watching this event, and it's beautiful to see here at Indianapolis, a circuit which has the largest venue capacity in the world and the highest attendance for any sporting event in history, Rob. Unfortunately, you can't do it in the real world right now.
Yeah, I've had the fortune of being able to work the last 3 Indianapolis 500s as part of the Indycar radio network, and to be there when you roll in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to beat the traffic, and then the cannon sounds at 6 o'clock, and then people start to come in, and by the time we're getting ready to go at noon, it's absolutely unbelievable. The place is packed, completely electric when we get set to go for the Indianapolis 500. We hope to do that again this year in August.
Yeah, 100%. Well, here we go. About to switch over to the race. Let's hand it over to Frank Rico, owner and CEO of Ricmotech, for today's command.
Start your engine.
So Frank Rico, of course, owner and CEO of Ricmotech, bringing us the command virtually for today's event. Now, we're going to have a full pace lap here, Rob, and just like the real world, the nerves start to build in the cockpit, and we look at the grid for today's event. These are your young talent scrapping it out over the next 45 minutes of racing action. Phil Dennis with his second pole position yet again for this season. That pole winner award presented by Symmetric Driver Performance Labs, and Phil Dennis, championship leader, is looking for yet another race win to his name.
If Philip's able to do it here and get that 3rd straight victory, he's got a virtual lock on this championship with just a couple more races to go. But Braden Eves stepping things up. I really think he has found some more speed. He spent a lot of time in the simulator to get himself dialed in. Road 2's Andre Castro and Eduardo Barrichello, both those drivers in a championship contention as well. Team owner Peter Dempsey qualifying 5th, and Daniel Frost, a young driver who will run for Andretti Autosports in Indy Lights this year, starting on the outside of row 3.
I'm very impressed by Daniel Frost, not only in the virtual world, but in the simulation racing world. And like Rob said, he'll join Dempsey on the 3rd row. Christian Brooks has been impressive recently in terms of pace. Despite some issues in qualifying, he'll start ahead of David Martinez in the 10th position. So that's your top 10 that will begin this race. We cycle through down the order, and you can see the likes of Robert Magenis starting all the way down in 19th. Now, Colin Kaminsky and Christian Rasmussen have been impressive too. Let's not forget, Rob, Reese Gold, who has seriously impressed. He hasn't really nailed qualifying in recent weeks, but to start from 14th, he's been a better racer come race day.
Drivers will pull away to get things underway, and as I said, Philippe Dennis, an opportunity to potentially clinch the championship, I think, if he's able to get this race win in. But Braden Eves is stepping up. This probably could be pretty aggressive. I think it should be fun to watch. Other drivers potentially see coming maybe from deeper in the field. Colin Kaminsky showed well in the opening round. Jonathan at Barber Motorsports Park. Mike Myers, new to the program as well. Everybody getting quicker and quicker as things dial in.
Yep, so our pole award, of course, officially goes to Phil Dennis, who has won the past 2 fastest lap of the race awards, and this time has his second pole award of the season, and that's presented by Simmetric Driver Performance Labs. Visit simmetriclabs.com for more information on high-quality driver coaching. Now,
well,
Rob,
Jonathan, I'll tell you right now, interesting for me will be this run down into the first corner. You know, I know at the drivers' meeting, they were very adamant talking to the drivers, saying, guys, it's a 45-minute race. Let's get through turn number 1. In real race life that we've had here, always issues down in turn 1. Drivers try to get too aggressive. You're trying to roll a ton of speed into there to get into that S section, turns 2 and 3. Hopefully the drivers will be smart this time around.
Now, you did mention this was the 2012 layout that was used. Now, Formula One hasn't been here since 2007, but this was a similar layout to what Formula One used. But this middle sector, this little chicane here, was slightly different when F1 visited over the years. Indycar has been here over recent years to a slightly modern, more modified version. iRacing do laser scan all their tracks, so they're not going to create any fantasy tracks out there. This is exactly what it was back in 2012. But the race is about to take place. 45 minutes of racing action. We're expecting a pit stop coming up, and we're expecting a mad, scrambling young talent of Road to Indy drivers screaming towards that front straightaway.
Race director Johnny Unser will no doubt watching this start to see whether drivers cause any kind of issues coming down to turn number 1. Drivers coming out of the final corner here. Philippe Dennis on the outside, Braden Eves on the inside. Rather, flip that over. It'll be Eves on the outside and Dennis on the inside. Both these drivers are going to battle it out this year in the Indy Pro 2000 category once we do go racing. Dennis running for RP Motorsport, Braden Eves for Exclusive Autosport. 2 young talents here on the road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. We are underway. Drivers getting spooled up. Green, green, green. We are rolling, and a great start, Jonathan, for Philippe Dennis.
Look at him scream down to the first corner already. Drivers scrambling for position as they head through turn number 1 for the first time. And now we begin to form up. So for the moment in the lead, it's Phil Dennis ahead of Andre Castro, who's had a screaming getaway, and he's passed Braden Eves for 3rd.
Looks to me like Christian Brooks lost a bunch of spots. They remember started up top in the 5th position, I believe. He's followed all the way back, and he's battling in the middle of a great fight here. That's with the number 12 machine of Kiko Porto. They're side by side coming through this sweeping left-hander, coming out of turn number 6 over to turn 7, rolling that speed to get back onto the straightaway. Now the first run down Holman Boulevard, Jonathan. Great start for Philippe Dennis.
Good stuff from him. He's on track to having a spectacular season so far, but he's still got 45 minutes of racing action coming up. You've got to form up single file here through the middle sector. But like we said, it's Dennis from Castro, from Eves, Barrichello in 4th ahead of Dempsey. We're watching Colin Kaminsky alongside Jacob Loomis. And now Flynn Lazy has had some trouble down the back of the pack. There he is, spun off the racetrack.
Well, you know, shout out to all the drivers right now. We will have a look at this replay. This is Flynn Lazier, a 3rd-generation driver, actually. His father winning the Indianapolis 500. Potential contact there between he and the number 19. Also being told there's that off there for Lazier. He showed very well at COTA at Circuit of America, so tough to see him have issues early.
Wow, look at this. Was that 4 wide for a second from that shot? They're at least 3 wide through the apex of 1 and somehow keeping it together. Colin Kaminsky in the midst of all of that.
Hey, shout out to these drivers here for a strong opening lap. You know, we're all worried about that opening corner. We've had so many incidents there in real life racing every time we've been there for the IndyCar GP weekend. So drivers doing a tremendous job there. Being told that a penalty coming down for the number 40 of Jack William Miller, incident responsibility. So a drive-through penalty for Jack William Miller. Great fight here that we're watching through the mid part of this racetrack. I'm really enjoying this one. That's the 03 of Reese Gold. Again, he was another top 10 driver. Had a fantastic battle at the Circuit of the Americas. He going back and forth. Yuven Sundaramurli on the inside coming now into turn number 7, or 8 actually in this layout.
Now, we talked about Reese Gold. He's normally fared better in the races. So far down a few positions already. We've got drivers scrambling off the racetrack here. It looks like one of those drivers is Francisco Porto, the Brazilian, off the racetrack, and he's lost a multitude of positions. Believe it or not, Rob, he's down 14 spots from the start of the race.
Yeah, that's one driver there coming too deep into the corner. I'd like to pick up that driver to find out who that was. A shallow entry into turn number 10 and just got right into the rear, left rear of Kiko Porto and sent him around. Have a look here at the number 3 of Peter Dempsey, again, former Freedom 100 winner. He's been very strong here in the iRacing program, part of the eSeries. So great to have a team owner looking so good, but a veteran driver in his own right. Not like he's just a team owner who hasn't built his own tremendous resume over the past couple of years. Dempsey currently running 3rd with Barrichello behind him.
Yeah, Dempsey, very credible, isn't he?
Yeah.
As we watch some side-by-side scrapping going on. Already loving the action here 3 minutes in. It's so realistic as we watch drivers with some front wing damage. The number 4 of Michael D'Orlando. Let's see what happened to the number 41 driver. Oh, goodness me. That was just a clumsy incident.
Yeah, that looked to me, that was going into turn number 6, and I have a feeling that it looked like maybe trying to get that gear change, get down a couple of gears there for Michael D'Orlando, and got the thing all crossed up and got into the back of Max Kaiser. Tough one for Max because he's been running really, really well. We've seen some good performances out of him. He's been really strong in practice too. I watched a bunch of the practice times, Jonathan, and he was top 10 for a majority of the practice throughout this week.
Yep, good stuff from them. Now, here's the battle for the lead right now. We're watching Dudu Barrichello ahead in the 3rd position. So, excuse me, sorry, this is for the 3rd position, but the lead has changed over the main straight. It's Braden Eves who has snatched pole position from Phil Dennis for the first time. And there is the exclusive Autosport driver. Now, Rob, this is the potential we were waiting from the young American so far in this series. He's finally showed us his full form in round number 3.
Yeah, the first time that we've really seen someone take it to Philippe Dennis, and early on in this race, just 4 laps in, a great run there for Braden Eves, able to get by. Now, these drivers will probably settle in and see if they can't pull away a little bit, but as they run, about a half a second advantage for Braden Eves, young driver out of Ohio, again running for exclusive Autosport this year. He's strong on the sim, as you know. We were teammates at Apex Racing and the sim team. Just recently joined up with you guys, and I like seeing him do well here because you know that he's going to be a championship challenger when we go racing later on this year. But for him to go out front, finally, we've got a challenge for Philippe Dennis here in this year's eSeries.
Yeah, good stuff. Andre Castro, after a brilliant getaway off the line, is now dropped down to 5th. But have a look at this now. Battle for the lead continuing yet again, and I feel like this is going to be a common sight over the next 40 minutes. Phil Dennis, back to P number 1.
Well, we talked early on, right, about the fact that we have the draft, and it's hard to pull away from anybody here as long as they're able to stay in your slipstream. And with that draft, especially down that long straightaway, it's such an easy run to get a big pull coming out of the final corner and then just tuck to the outside to get the pass done. And that's exactly what Philippe Dennis did there. He went out, but there's contact. It's Daniel Frost. Frost and Prescott Campbell together in turn 4.
God, these two were scrapping the entire race. It was only inevitable that they got it wrong. Let's see what happened here. Oh, and that's just Campbell going way too hot into the corner. And he's just impaled the side pod of Daniel Frost. I guess we can laugh a little bit, Rob, because it's virtual, but I'm sure Daniel Frost wouldn't be pleased with that at all.
You know, in myself and looking at that as well, you could see that Daniel Frost had made a mistake and he had lost some ground and he was kind of defending a bit to the right side. And I think Prescott was saying, hey, you know what? I may try to make a move to the inside here. And obviously just didn't work. Another penalty there for the number 4 machine, Michael D'Orlando. So yeah, that incident that we saw with and Max Kaiser, he ends up getting the penalty there. But no, it just seemed to me like Campbell said, you know what, you just made a mistake. I'm going to try to capitalize. And now we have a move for the lead again. Braden Eves back to the front of the order. Eves ahead of Dennis to come across the line, putting lap number 6 in the books.
Look at this behind. 3 wide yet again here. The battle for 3rd. Now, Rob, how does this work? If the second group here, as Castro will lead ahead of Dempsey, ahead of Barrichello and then Dempsey, will this group catch the 2 leaders? Is that their mission right now, or should they keep battling away?
Well, again, I think that people come in with certain mindsets, right? They know how good Philippe Dennis is. They know how good Braden Eves is. Do they line up and just work together? You want to hope they would. But I think for a lot of drivers, they start getting aggressive. They think they're the one that could be able to lead that group to close back up on the guys, the front-running duo that is pulled away. That may not be the case. They better settle in and be smart, because right now they're losing a bit of ground as Eves and Dennis continue to pull away. But it's Castro, Barrichello, and Dempsey in that next group. Here's Prescott Campbell again, the number 12. You can see the damage on the wing there from the contact with Braden Eves. The right front wing on that machine damaged as well. That'll hurt him for sure in some of these quicker corners.
Yeah, can I correct you? Sorry, it was with Daniel Frost, the Singaporean, wasn't it? So
my apologies. Yes.
Yeah, there was with those two. And see so Rob, for those who are new to iRacing, what people don't know about is we continue to watch another scrap here for the lead. Let's see if they actually. I'll mention that in a second. I just want to see how much time they lose scrapping away, because Dennis and Eves are playing this perfectly. They've gained about 0.7 of a second over these three. And so far this lap, these three, that's just not going to cut it, is it? Going 2 by 2 into the apex of the corner.
Well, to be honest, the guy that's actually going to benefit from this, not just Dennis and Eves up front, is Christian Brooks. He's running there in that 6th position. He's watching these guys run side by side all the way down the straightaway. As soon as he gets close enough to really start to benefit on the draft, Brooks may be able to come into the fight. He's still about 0.6 of a second or 0.7 behind Castro. But again, look, it's closing up now. They continue to work together coming through turn number 6. Every time they go wide, 3 wide coming down the straightaway, Christian's just getting up a little more ground, getting eating into that gap a little bit.
Yeah, so the lead is around about half a second a lap officially, quicker than these three in that little peloton group as they fight away. Now, what I was going to say earlier, Rob, with Prescott Campbell is he is able to make a pit stop later in the race, and he's allowed what's called a fast repair. So there are a lot of people new to iRacing who might be watching this, and basically a fast repair can be anything from a minor repair to a major 8-hour repair to your car within 1 second for free.
I'm sure a number of drivers are going to take that.
Yeah, definitely. As we watch a few of the drivers here scrap away. Right up to the wall.
Oh, contact!
Contact!
That's Castro. Huge wreck for Castro on the front straightaway. He and I believe Dempsey.
Oh.
That car continues to roll down the straightaway. Watch for Castro to go to the inside on this, Jonathan. Tries to get to the inside. Dempsey tries to maybe defend a little bit, but man, tank slapper from side to side, walled and back into the car, and then he went for a ride.
Oh, he kept tumbling, didn't he? That was a hefty incident. And how fast are they going there? At least, I don't know it in miles, by the way, being Australian, but at least, what, 150 miles an hour?
Miles an hour there, I would expect.
Yeah. I had to have a guess there, Rob. I was trying to do the conversion in my head for a second.
Well, the crazy thing there, Jonathan, is that these are the drivers battling for the final position on the podium. They know they're losing ground. They can see it. They're being told by their spotters that they're losing a half a second or more a lap, whatever it may be. They just were embroiled in such a scrap that none of these drivers wanted to sit back and just kind of ride it out here right now. Castro got a good run out of the final corner. Thought he was going to go to the inside. There just really wasn't enough room, and we've seen that happen in real life racing as well here at IMS.
Yep, contact behind. So I just lost which car that was off shot. We're going to have another replay here to look at. This might be the same incident, actually, and it might be Lucas Cole, the Brazilian, who was involved here as he runs through and has lost that all on his own. And one of the drivers behind has had nowhere to go. So, again, that's where the fast repair will come into effect and be of good use.
It looked to me like one of the exclusive Autosport cars. I think that might have been Prescott Campbell, potentially. Look at this battle here. This is Reese Gold scrapping it out here with Jacob Loomis, Michael Myers, Prescott Campbell to the outside. 4 wide coming down to turn number 1 here in Indianapolis.
Never seen that before until now. That's spectacular. And they've made it work. I tell you what, we should upload that clip and tell people that's how you race in the world of iRacing cleanly. These young Road to Indy drivers have been so impressive so far in this event. We've had some clumsy crashes, the likes of Andre Castro, unfortunately, but that was a brilliant showing from these guys.
Jonathan, you have so much experience here in the iRacing world and have called so many different races, so many different platforms and different series. I think we've seen a progression with these drivers who are getting more comfortable with the iRacing platform. They're getting faster and faster, and we're seeing a lot cleaner racing than we saw at both Barber Motorsports Park and at the Circuit of the Americas last Saturday.
Yeah, good stuff. So As the cloud cover begins to shine, you can see the track getting darker. That's available on iRacing, is the dynamic weather that affects the track temperatures that these two leaders will be dealing with as they are on pursuit towards a race win. And of course, as well, we also have, you can see the darkened line through the apexes and the lines through the corners. That's a live track state, Rob. And on iRacing, the track will evolve the more you drive and the more you plant some rubber on it.
Yeah, that's what really has taken this thing to the next level, right? We're not just running a simulation. It's actual track simulation, weather simulation. The iRacing program, it's been so valuable here in this particular... we have contact coming up to turn number 1. Contact in 1. That is Reese Gold, Robert McGuinness. I think that's Jacob Loomis as well in the 09. Yeah. Loomis, a privateer effort of the Indy Pro 2000 category, just a little deep in for McGuinness. I think that was McGuinness potentially getting into the back of him. That's a shame.
Well, the good news about that is he spun it back pointing the right way quite instantly. Good stuff from him as Prescott Campbell's on his recovery drive after the incident with Daniel Frost earlier in this race. Now, for Andre Castro here, Rob, remember he had the incident towards the end of race 1, now another one in race 3. He came into this round 5th in the championship. He was looking quite well until that crash today.
Yeah, obviously getting in for a faster pair and getting back out onto the racetrack. Now watching Kiko Porto with the number 12, who will run this year in USF 2000 with D-Force Racing. Here's that battle again now for the 3rd and 4th spots. Dempsey still battling out with Barrichello.
Good stuff from these guys. We'll keep track of all of these scraps right after these messages.
What a weekend for the driver from Canada. It's a sweet back-to-back jacks for Parker Thompson. Rasmus Lynch, your winner by 8/10 Al Kirkwood. Rasmus Lynch and Proposed Racing. Al Kirkwood, the winner. Third round of the Ricmotech Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires eSeries here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we've seen some tremendous racing from these drivers here. They've been going wheel to wheel. Couple little incidents here and there. We've seen a replay right now. Reese Gold battling it out with Kiko Porto, but a big dive move down to the inside there and then pushing wide for Robert McGuinness. That sends Reese Gold off the racetrack into the gravel trap, able to continue, but again, a penalty, at least a warning being laid down for Robert McGuinness there, Jonathan, for that contact coming through turn number 4.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's been a plethora of incidents in this race so far, which some were quite spectacular. Nothing that we'd probably see in the real world for sure. Chris Brooks, though, has been so impressive right now in the 3rd position. He's climbed to the top of this train. Remember, Rob, you pointed out to me, what was it, 10 minutes ago, you said this battle from 3rd to 5th is going to support Christian Brooks in the 6th position. Now he's at the top of the train. You've called it perfectly.
Yeah, I did exactly what we expected. They were 3 wide coming down the straightaway, pushing a big hole in the air, allowing Christian Brooks to use that draft to come up. Now he's in the fight here with Peter Dempsey. He'll go back by on the inside. These drivers swapping the lap here on lap number 13. Dudu Barrichello right in there as well, as is the number 07 of David Martinez, another one of our team owners running here this year's eSeries. He's a part of the team owners of the D-Force team. Of course, David Martinez, a tremendous resume for all his racing in the Atlantic Championship, Champ Car Atlantic. Did some runs in the Champ Car Series as well. A very talented driver and a tremendous coach as well, even though he's a team owner for all his drivers at D-Force Racing. He's right in the middle of this battle. 4 guys going at it, Jonathan. That's 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
So that's the voice of Road to Indy, Rob Howden, alongside myself, Jonathan Simon. And we hope you're enjoying the coverage here on Apex Racing TV. And of course, to our Canadian audience on the MAVTV Motorsports Network, this is your battle for the final podium position, as Rob was just discussing, between Christian Brooks, Peter Dempsey, I was about to say Rubens Barrichello, Dudu Barrichello, and David Martinez in the 6th position. Our 2 leaders have run away with it, Braden Eves and Phil Dennis. And if you're new to this form of racing, we're using the Pro Mazda, initially the Star Mazda around 10 years ago as it was once known. You're going to see a lot of position changes for the lead, Rob, but it's nothing to get too excited about until that final lap.
Yeah, really, this is just all about these drivers battling it out here, going back and forth with the draft. You can see Philippe Dennis would take the lead, then Braden Eves takes it back. This is a mano-a-mano battle to the very end. They're just both biding their time, waiting for that final run for the last couple laps to see who comes out up front. Pit stops potentially starting. A little early, I think, for me right now. Peter Dempsey coming in early, being told anywhere between 26 and 28 minutes available to go on the fuel. So do you come in early and get the fresh fuel so you've got a lighter car at the end, or do you put the 3 gallons you're going to need to go the distance in at the end of the run? We'll see differing strategies on when drivers decide to pit.
Yep, so these drivers start with 4 gallons on board, and with all this fuel saving, I think they'd even run longer than your predicted window, Rob, what I was thinking, because I think that's more in a clean air run. So I'm thinking, if you're the leaders, how long can you run, and can you fuel for a shorter pit stop? If you don't take tires as well, you have a quicker stop, and that's going to be critical between Phil Dennis and Braden Eves for the lead, because like I said, these tires actually have non-existent tire wear. The Cooper tires here, they're quite durable, and that's why we brought them in as a series sponsor.
So the interesting thing about Peter Dempsey, he was in the middle of that fight with Christian Brooks, Eduardo Barrichello, David Martinez in there as well. Was his strategy potentially to get out of that fight, get himself back into clean air, and see what happens pit-wise? Because we've seen in the first 2 races to be able to be strong, and we saw Philippe Dennis do this as well when he was battling with Castro and with Dudu Barrichello at Circuit of the Americas. It's all about having that super fast in-lap. You've got to nail the pit stops, and drivers have been practicing their pit stops this time to make sure they got it nailed. And then that out-lap on cold tires. You've got to hammer it down, and that can be the difference between being in a pack and being able to jump ahead of all those guys you were fighting with before you came in.
Yeah, definitely. And this race is going to be shaping up to be quite interesting over these next 10 minutes. Remember, Rob, back to round 1 at Barber, where we weren't expecting the stop, and then it unintentionally happened, and everybody seemed to enjoy it as we watch battles here for the bottom end of the top 10. This is Jacob Loomis with Prescott Campbell and Reese Gold. But since then, Rob, everyone's decided and said, hey, you know what? That's not too bad. You know, for Road to Indy, we don't normally have pit stops, but in the virtual world, anything's possible.
Yeah, I think it shook something up, was a little bit different. Of course, took us off guard a little bit at the opening round at Barber. But yeah, everybody loved it. We said, hey, you know what? Let's give our drivers the opportunity to maybe get that experience, having to come into the pit stop, having to nail that out lap. Again, this battle we're seeing here is with Jacob Loomis, Prescott Campbell, and Reese Gold. We do know that a little bit of right front wing damage for Prescott Campbell. All 3 of these drivers, different positions on their racing careers as well, Jonathan. Jacob Loomis, a young driver, is a karting coach. He was a privateer last year. Came in and ran a couple of events and did extremely well in the Indy Pro 2000 category. Prescott Campbell winning the Lucas Oil School of Racing Formula Car Series last year. That gave him a scholarship to be able to run with Exclusive Autosport in USF 2000. Then you've got Reese Gold, just 15 years of age. It'll be his 2nd year this year with Cape Motorsports, the USF 2000 Juggernauts. 10th last year in the championship. Reese Gold definitely be a guy I think that we'll be looking for race wins here in 2020.
From the very accomplished to the rookies as they head in towards the Road to Indy program, as Prescott Campbell's shoved into the apex of Turn 1 by the young Reese Gold, who has been so impressive in race form, which is something that a lot of young drivers lack, Rob, is that it's always a good sign if you're a strong qualifier and you have the speed, but if you've got the consistency to race well during a longer race distance, that's a good sign for the future as a driver, because that is very tough to develop as a young man.
You know, interesting, one of the things, I talked to a number of the drivers after these races, and they say that the 45 minutes of sheer focus to be able to run this race, it's it's been tough for them, because if you think about it, the USF 2000 drivers, our main events are only 30 minutes long. So it's another 50% distance. The same goes for Indy Pro 2000. Yeah, they do run a couple of races that are maybe 40 minutes long, but a 45-minute distance, and you have to be totally focused, especially in a car that you can't feel. That's a little bit different than being in a car, an actual car itself, where you can feel from the seat of your pants. This is all about hand control and eye focus and being able to have that hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
It's a different for these guys, Jonathan, and it's really been tough on them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Good training tool is sim racing. A lot of the real-world drivers use it to keep, or at least shake the rust off in the weeks leading up to an event. Certainly during this period, as Prescott Campbell, you can see at the bottom of the screen, as entered for his one and only scheduled stop for today. So let's paint a picture of how this race will fare out in the second half of the event as we climb into the 23-minute mark. It's your top two of Braden Eves and Phil Dennis, who are leading the field and absolutely dominating the event here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They look like it's going to go down to the pit stop, and depending on who makes the quicker stop, could break the toe from one or the other. Then your second group includes Christian Brooks, Eduardo Barrichello, and Colin Kaminsky. Now, do you think that's a good pit stop, Rob, by Peter Dempsey to make the pit stop early and actually come out in clean air? We have to keep track of his lap times, because if he's lapping slower without the draft, he's actually going to lose a lot of time compared to those fighting for third.
Interesting. Last lap time for him at 122.87, and the leaders, Eves last time by a 122.2. Again, we know how quick he is. He's been able to pull away. So not bad here for Peter Dempsey. And again, the colder tires, so get these things dialed in. I can't wait to see what happens. I love when the pit stops start happening. You start seeing where guys cycle back in and seeing who did the best job of the in-lap, stop itself, and who did the best job of the out-lap, which is obviously so important. There's Dempsey, again, the owner of Turn 3 Motorsports, who runs Antoine Comeau and Lucas Cole in Indy Pro 2000. Again, waiting for the stops of the guys that he was battling with, Eduardo Barrichello and Christian Brooks.
Reese Gold in the lane as well. The young man, he's going to slot himself down the order outside of your top 10. For Dempsey, he's matching those he was fighting with before his stop. And so, was that a car stricken ahead of Dempsey? That was quite odd to see. It was definitely a car lapped out of the way. I'll have to look at my track map. It might have been Nico Christodoulou. And yes, it was, as Christodoulou's lost it here coming into the opening sector. Now, he's just touched the grass on the outside, which is common to do, Rob, because you're looking right to the apex of the corner. You're not really focusing on your left. And Christodoulou struggled on the simulator, you know. It's probably someone that would fare better in the real world, where he has a better feel for the car.
Well, look at this. Look at this battle right now between the leaders, Philippe Dennis and Braden Eves. Philippe all up and over the rumble strips on the inside of turn number 2, shot him a bit wide. Good fight here on board with Braden Eves, again, driver out of Ohio, last year's USF 2000 champion, 5 wins in the program, including the finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to steal that championship away from Hunter McElroy. Big run here, and this will give us a good look at the draft as he's able to close right back up, Jonathan. This part of the racetrack I struggled with when I was getting some laps in, just to be able to get the rhythm down there, because the rear kept wanting to come around on me. Get back on the power here to roll on here. This is right there. That's from power there out of turn number 11. You're on full throttle all the way down to turn number 1.
It's interesting that you say that. I spoke to Julian Dunn, who I mentioned. These two are coming into the lane at the same time. How about this? And look at Braden Eve, who's going to make it alongside into the entrance. Have they both sped on entry? That was awfully close. What an entertaining scrap for P number 1.
How did that catch you off guard? They run that lower line coming out of turn number 12, and I was waiting for them to go back up onto the racetrack. And I love the fact that they both came in together. They'll work their way down pit lane right now. Let's key on them if we possibly can. Let's watch this pit stop to see who comes out. That is Philippe Dennis, point leader, back-to-back race wins to start off the season. There goes Braden Eves. He's going to tuck himself in there as well. Pit stop for these drivers, and we'll see how they come out. This could be very, very interesting.
This could make or break the race. Let's see who heads out first. Wow, not even close. Phil Dennis with a quicker stop. He was 1 second quicker in the lane than Braden Eves. Now, Rob, he has got to pedal away to break that draft from his competitor.
That's exactly what you said. We were going to have to find out what happened in pit lane. Were they going to come in together? Were they going to come separately? Where were they cycle back in when they got together? Did they break the draft? Philippe Dennis, for the third straight weekend, has turned the pit stop into his advantage as he comes through now, turn number 6. A pretty decent advantage. You'll see it over Braden Eves. Braden's going to have a smoking cold tire lap here if he wants to close back up. Lap traffic could play a role down the order potentially, but still a long way to go in this race.
And this is that challenging middle sector you discussed. So you talked about losing the rear end through there, Rob. Now, this car, and I was going to mention this before the pit stops, I spoke to Julian Dunn, who is one of the quickest in the world on the simulator and a virtual racing school coach in this Pro Mazda vehicle. And he's talked about the lift-off oversteer that you get. So you probably just need to slam the throttle and go faster, mate, to keep it on the racetrack.
I'll have to try that because lift-off oversteer is like the characterization of my iRacing career thus far. Trying to race this car because I do try to get some time behind the wheel each race we go to get a feel for the track myself. I talked to a couple drivers. Philippe Dennis actually offered me some input as well. And watch these drivers come by. What a lap there. The difference in the lap with the pit stop significant. 6 or 7 tenths of a second for Philippe Dennis. He's now 7 tenths of a second up, and we'll watch that gap right now to see if it falls down. 7 tenths of a second. Braden Eves trying to get the fight back to it. Just as an announcer and wanting to see a great show, I'm hoping that Eves is able to close back up and we find ourselves with a one-on-one fight all the way through to the checkered flag.
You're going to get your wish. He's catching him 10th by 10th. Sector by sector. Now look at this. This is an interesting discussion point, Rob. This is, I believe, Daniel Frost in the 68 weaving across the front straight. Now we saw Braden Eves do that at the Circuit of the Americas last week, and it was something that the stewards have decided for this round that if you do that, you could receive a potential penalty. So expect Ryan Cobb and Johnny Unser in race control to certainly be having a look at the Singaporean driver of Frost.
Yeah, that's Kiko Porto right behind in the number 12. And in reading the debrief before coming into the race, it was going to be kind of their discretion of how they wanted to handle it. Yeah, you were able to make a move or two, but getting checked up there. Here comes from the outside, Porto got a little bit checked up by the 14 of Louis Meyer, got in front of Daniel Frost. Somehow Frost able to hold the spot as they worked their way through the 8, 9, 10 combination. Daniel Frost from Singapore again, running for Andretti Autosport this year, his rookie campaign in the Indy Lights Series after a couple of wins last year in Indy Pro at both Toronto and later in the season. Actually, no, earlier in the season. He actually won the Oval at Lucas Oil Raceway. Did a tremendous job with Exclusive Autosport. Not a place that we figured he'd grab that big win, but Daniel did a great job on that 5/8 mile oval.
Now, whilst you were talking about that, Braden Eves, the number 1 Exclusive Autosport driver, is made his way back to the top. We're going to watch a replay here for the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. And this is how that battle for the lead took place. It was a simple pass. I think this is probably the millionth time it's happened in the past half an hour. Now, you mentioned Lucas Oil. How far away is Lucas Oil from this circuit?
To be honest, about a 10-minute drive, just out Crawfordsville Road. That's how close it is. When we do the weekend, the Indianapolis 500 weekend, we got more contact. That's Kiko Porto. Before we'll get back to that in a second, but Kiko Porto, the number 12, was that he and Daniel Frost battling it out again?
Oh, Frost is, and that's the 23 that's off the racetrack. So you were right in terms of Frost. The number 6 of Christian Rasmussen involved.
Yeah, Christian Rasmussen was like a driver involved, actually popping it out of my screen there.
And did you see Chris Tadulu off the racetrack as well? So there was Chris Tadulu somewhere in the gravel trap yet again. Chris Tadulu's, as I said, just been struggling in the sim so far, the young man. And this is the lead yet again. The two drivers are scrapping away. So good to see these three in a fight yet again, and good to see the battle for the final podium position continuing between Dempsey, Brooks, and Barrichello. Martinez, I think... Now, Martinez was the one who was in that scrap, wasn't he, as well? He's dropped off the pack. No, it was Castro as well, don't forget, who had the incident.
Yeah, David Martinez was at the tail of that 4 drivers before they came into pit lane. And look how it's all cycled back in again. Peter Dempsey finds himself again in 3rd, although he pitted much earlier than both Brooks and Barrichello. And I think it plays and it really shows and displays the draft here, Jonathan, because Philippe Dennis had an almost full second advantage on Braden Eves, but Braden able to use the draft from 13 down to turn number 1, out of turn number 7 down to turn number 8. Use that draft, closes back in. He's already taken the lead. They've gone back and forth. This is what we hoped for. We have 13 minutes remaining in this race, and we're going to have a battle all the way to the checkered flag.
So looking down the timing screen, only Andre Castro is yet to enter the pit lane. Is that true? After a spectacular, what would you call it? Pirouetting down the main straight. The timing screen here says he's yet to enter the box, which is spectacular as we watch Dennis and Eves yet again battle for the lead. Are my eyes deceiving me, by the way? Can I just confirm? He's made 0 pit stops after that spin.
We'll have to have a look. I can't see it on my particular window. He's got to get back into the pit stop.
He's got to
stop that pretty soon here, you'd think, right?
Yeah, I mean, to run the tank this long is absolutely amazing, and to have a car that spun at least 50 times on the main straight to continue with this long is impressive from Castro. But here's the battle continuing. Like you said, drive-through penalty at the bottom of the screen, Rob.
Yeah, drive-through penalty for Christian Rasmussen. So he is the driver that got into the back of Kiko Porto there. And drive-through will pretty much end your race in terms of trying to battle for anywhere in the top 10, that's for sure.
Yeah, good call there. You know, this circuit as well, despite being a road course, it's essentially like pretty much, you treat this like an oval race, wouldn't you, around this circuit?
Well,
in a sense.
To a certain extent, I guess. Interesting that this is one of the tracks we do come to, at least the cities we come to on 2 weekends in a Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires season. We come, of course, for the IndyCar Grand Prix weekend where we run this particular track, a little bit different configuration, as you had said earlier. And then we are actually part of the month of May and the Memorial Day weekend, the Indianapolis 500. Indy Lights drivers run on the Friday. Carb Day, 100,000 people in the stands for the Freedom 100, a tremendous race. And then, as you said, just about 10 minutes out Crawfordsville Road to the west is Lucas Oil Raceway, where we have the Carb Night Classic. It's been the Carb Night Classic on Friday. We've had the night before the 500 on Saturday. Both Indy Pro 2000 and USF 2000 getting a chance to race on the 5/8 mile oval. And that is a challenge for sure, Jonathan, because they run up on the wall. It's not like a stock car where you're coming down to the apex and the inside of the track. They are right around the wall on the outside of that facility, and it's always an exciting night of racing.
We caught a glimpse of that in qualifying with Braden Eves as he tried to maximize his speed to begin a lap. And these three here, the battle never ends. Dudu Barrichello leading the train this lap ahead of the 44 of Christian Brooks. And Peter Dempsey, team owner. So on the left-hand side of the screen, if you're wondering what all those little color overlays mean, it defines whether these drivers which series they're represented in, and you can see at the top of the screen, if they're in blue, it's the Indy Pro 2000, USF 2000 for gray, team owners in green, and Indy Lights in red. Would have liked to see a little more Indy Lights drivers represented in the series, Rob, but nevertheless, we got a few of them.
Yeah, that's something we'll look at for sure, because there is talk potentially of if indeed this COVID-19 coronavirus shutdown is extended, potentially more races. Maybe we do another 5-race set or something like that. I think that a lot of people are really enjoying this. It's given these drivers an opportunity to be behind the wheel, to be focused still on their craft. As I said, it's a unique discipline. It's not exactly like what it's like driving in outdoors, but it's a discipline nonetheless. Hand-eye coordination, race strategy, race craft. I'm really excited about what we've done here. And for me, I think, Jonathan, I'm most pleased with the fact that our racing has been a lot cleaner and not so much more exciting, because the excitement level's been up for all 3 races. But this race has been a lot cleaner, I think, than we saw the first 2 events.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just credit to the adjudicating by race stewards Ryan Cobb and, of course, Johnny Unser, who have done a splendid job this season. And credit as well, we haven't mentioned him, but Kevin Ford behind the scenes has done an awesome job in preparation. So here we go now through the middle sector as these 3 continue to fight for that elusive podium. Now for Barrichello, this is important for the championship. He'll know that he can't really finish any greater than 3rd, but he'll still maintain 2nd in the championship if he crosses the finish line at the end of this race ahead of these 2 that he's scrapping with.
Well, I think the key thing is right now, if Braden Eves is able to get out in front and potentially take this race win away from Philippe Dennis, that kind of opens the door. As I say that, we'll go 3 wide down the front straightaway here, across the yard of bricks of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Dempsey on the inside, Brooks in the middle, and Barrichello on the outside. Who's going to give up first coming into the braking zone?
Well, Dempsey gives up both spots, and it looks like Brooks will lead.
Yeah, Dempsey's a veteran driver. I think he's kind of playing with these guys a little bit to a certain extent in terms of, hey, let's push you guys to see if you'll make a mistake. Because that's really what they have to do right now. Push one of these guys into driving off, looping the car, overcooking into the brakes somewhere. Peter Dempsey's a veteran driver, as I said. This is a guy with a resume that anybody would love to have. Came within inches of being able to get into the IndyCar program. Was a winner, of course, in Indy Lights, as I said. He's got a stacked resume of race wins in Formula Ford. His father, Cliff Dempsey, with a team in Europe that actually handles all of our Team USA scholarship drivers when they go run the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy event. Cliff and his wife, just tremendous people. They take the drivers under their wing and become family, and that's just kind of what the Dempsey family is all about. These guys are racers through and through.
And talking about Formula Ford, any news on Cameron Shields as to why the Aussie's not racing today? Don't have any home drivers to support.
That's a great question. I when I looked at the entry list, I didn't see why Cameron Shields potentially not on board. I'll make sure I get a message out. We'll figure that out.
Is he currently, during the COVID-19 shutdown, is he in Australia or is he in the US?
I believe he's in California right now, staying with friends in California.
Well, he might be enjoying. I'm jealous. He might be enjoying the beautiful weather. That's pretty much good there around the entire year. I need a summer holiday somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere. I might give you a visit, although Canada's quite cold, Rob, so unfortunately I might have to reconsider that.
Well, in the middle of the summer, we get up into remember, we're from Canada, so I can say Celsius for you. We get up into the low 30s on a regular basis, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, low 30s I can live with. That's pretty good. I think 40s, you just swelter. You're as hot as these three scrapping away on the racetrack. Those Cooper tires will be melting, but the Cooper tires will be handling them quite well. Quite durable in the virtual world too.
I will say this, Jonathan. We'd love to have you to come up to a Road to Indy event sometime, get you in the commentary booth with me, and we could rekindle what we're doing here with the Ricmotech program. I think it'd be a lot of fun to have you up here for an event.
Yeah, you got to cook me a burger too, don't forget.
Done. Make that happen for you. I like this battle up front. This battle is tremendous between Barrichello and Christian Brooks, Philippe Dennis and Braden Eves. They've paired off into a couple of duos and trios, and I love the fact that we're going to have some really good scraps over the last 5 minutes here.
5 minutes to go, and it's going to be between Phil Dennis and Braden Eves for the victory, we think, and between these three on screen for the third position. Behind them, David Martinez is going to have a lonely race in the 6th position for the next 5 minutes, along with Colin Kaminsky and Prescott Campbell, after his earlier incident with Singaporean Daniel Frost, has recovered to 8th, but might not improve any further. But look at the gaps as well from 1st to 8th. That is at least, if I look at the timing gaps, that's at least around a minute there, close to.
You know what I'm loving watching here right now is Peter Dempsey filling the mirrors of Eduardo Barrichello. He's left, he's right. Every time they dive into a corner, he makes sure that car, the blue number 3 machine, pops up right in front of him to make sure that they know he's there. He's trying to force these guys into a mistake. Eventually, it could happen.
100%. Chris Brooks looking good in Exclusive Autosport, and that's 2 Exclusive Autosport cars, Rob, in your top 3 positions. They'll be celebrating for sure watching this behind the scenes. It's a team that was hoping for some success in 2020 and is going to get it this race, hopefully, in the virtual world.
They're being told to Reese Gold with a drive-through penalty, incident responsibility. We didn't see that incident, but Reese Gold, of course, has been in the middle of a couple of big battles, drive-through for the young American driver.
Not good for Reese Gold, who's been impressive during the races. 3 wide into 1 here as the 44 of Brooks will maintain the 3rd position. Good stuff from him. He's right ahead of Dudu Barrichello. There are the car numbers on the left-hand side of the screen if you want to keep track of these guys. And alongside each other, there's contact with Dudu Barrichello as he collided with Brooks in the Exclusive Autosport racer.
Yeah, it was side-by-side coming through turn number 4. Barrichello wanted to make the move to the inside, quick part of the racetrack. You can see his car just starts to wash out. That's a tough one for Barrichello. And coming through that corner, you're back on the throttle. You're wanting to keep as much momentum as you possibly can. To me, it looked like the car just washed out a bit on him.
100%, and that's going to let these 2 scrap for the final podium position. So Barrichello may lose 2nd in the championship here to Braden Eves after that collision. He should have 5th position. Signed, sealed, delivered, hopefully. He's only about 1.5 seconds back. He hasn't lost that much time, but your leaders are going to start to scrap away for P number 1. Dennis now leading this race on par towards what could potentially be yet another race win for our championship leader.
I'll tell you the impressive thing there, Peter Dempsey, if you saw that there after they came down to turn number 8, he got it all crossed up coming into 8 and was able to save it. A tremendous job for him. He gets that draft to get up the straightaway, closes right back in. So this will be the battle right now for the final position on the podium. An over-under coming here from Dempsey. Up over the curb coming through, and Dempsey goes around. Up over the curve of turn number 2, and it just released the car for Dempsey. Let's have a look from the top here. They'll roll their way into turn number 1. He's trying to do a nice over-under. Crawling back in, all up into the grass, and then tried to roll back on the throttle, Jonathan.
Just unsettled the suspension underneath him. There wasn't any grip to cope with all that oscillation, as Peter Dempsey just seemed to misjudge turn number 2 on the undercut. Good to see those three getting aggressive, though, here in the virtual environment. They don't have to pay any damage bills, but there's an emotional toll to take if you don't nail your race here. Now, here's what's going to make this race interesting. These drivers are going to cross the line. This will be the penultimate lap of the race. Next time by will be the white flag. And there are going to be lapped cars in the way. There's the 03 of Reese Gold, as these two ready to swap positions into one. They're side by side.
I just said side by side to turn number 1, closing up here on Reese Gold. Dennis still with the lead, but it's that number 1 of Braden Eves all over him. He'll have a look to the inside of turn number 4 as well. Thinks better of it and tucks back in. This is the fight that we were hoping to see. Dennis way out over top of the rumbles there coming through. They'll both dive to the inside of Max Kaiser coming through turn number 6. Tough to put the power down here, and it again leads onto that long back straightaway. Pretty good advantage there for Dennis coming out of the corner, Jonathan, but here comes that long run down Hellman Boulevard over to turn 8. The draft goes to Eves.
Good stuff from Dennis, but Eves is remaining poised right now, fighting for the race victory. These two have been going at it every single lap today since the green flag waved. They'll cross the line this time by, and the white flag will wave, but we have no clue who's going to win this race.
Braden Eves tucking up behind the gearbox, the Pro Mazda of Philippe Dennis. Again, the RP Motorsport USA driver against the exclusive Autosport pilot, the champion in the Cooper Blue Machine, the scholarship from winning USF 2000 last year. Big run down the straightaway here for Braden Eves. Does he try to make a move? Has a little look to the inside. Again, Jinx trying to fill those mirrors. He'll go a wider berth coming into turn number 1. Jonathan, this is what we were looking for.
Love this as well. Braden Eves a little indecisive, but let's see how he handles the middle sector. It so far looks like it's going to be a drag race to the line. They head through the first sector for the final time in this event. Eves possibly to the inside.
Braden Eves putting all the pressure here now, as we said, on Philippe Dennis. The two American drivers battling it out. They'll come out of turn number 7. Here comes the big run down. Dennis is going to block to the inside. Defensive move inside of the racetrack. Eves is going to go side by side. Jonathan coming out into turn number 8.
Whoa, he just sent it into the middle sector. That could be enough here, or it could put Phil Dennis in position to win this race. It's all about the run out of here, turn 12, to end this race.
Was it a strategy move for Dennis to allow Eves to go by the inside? They'll work their way to turn number 11 to 12, up onto the banking. Eves is right there, but again, Dennis is going to look to the bottom of the racetrack. Eves on the outside. It'll be a crisscross coming through. Dennis with the lead. I think maybe Eves might have gave it up. Here they come down the straightaway. Who's going to be the first of the yard of bricks? Round number 3. Big run here for Braden Eves. Is he going to have enough? No. Back to back to back jacks for Philippe Dennis. He wins again, 3 straight victories. Philippe Dennis winning at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Wow. What a finish from these two. And what a scrap it was heading through those final few corners. Phil Dennis, yet again untouched. He's won every race of the Ricmotech Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. Rob, I am speechless. That is one of the most exciting finishes I've seen, not only virtually, but in Road to Indy in the real world too.
Yeah, that was absolutely tremendous for sure.
And this is a Cooper tire. Great tire. Now, it's not going to cook you a pot roast, but it will stop when you hit the brakes. And these truck tires can stop on average 10 feet shorter than other tires on a wet road. See, the trick is in the grip. And these tires grip like my handshake. Look, I'm your uncle. I love you. I want you to stop when you need to. Doesn't matter if it's for a red light or a duckling. So go with the Coopers. Cooper! And never start something you can't stop.
Well, your winner is on the right-hand side, and that's Phil Dennis, but Braden Eves really made him work for it and hilariously joins him at the Yard of Bricks here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a finish. We hope Phil Dennis has got a 3-liter bottle of milk to scull after this event, because he won't be able to do it in the virtual environment. But it's time to look at our final race results for round number 3 of the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. And it was a thrilling event for this third round, where it was Phil Dennis who ended up taking that first position ahead of Braden Eves, won that by a very close margin across the line. Christian Brooks ended up in third on the podium, so Brooks at the end of the day kept that position ahead of Barrichello. Dempsey fell down to 6th after a late spin. David Martinez was sandwiched in between them, and it was a very chaotic race for our top 6, Rob.
Well, what I find interesting for Christian Brooks, remember he missed the opening race, but ends up 9th in the points coming in. It's a third-place finish. Christian Brooks is going to find himself in the top 5 when we head to the next round of this event. What I want your input on the fact that, do you think that Philippe Dennis gave up the lead coming down into turn number 8 to make sure he was in second coming to the stripe?
Well, I can't wait till you run post-race interviews, Rob, because it's something to ask him for sure. The gap between the two at the end of the day, less than a 1/10 of a second. So at the moment, we're hearing that Brooks will be in the 4th position after blocking Dudu Barrichello. Barrichello, believe it or not, Rob, like I said, he was 1.7 seconds after his incident with Brooks, ended up catching back up to the number 44 driver, and now is on the podium. So great stuff for Dudu.
Yeah, pretty impressive run for Barrichello. He's shown extremely well over all 3 of the events we've had so far of this 5-race program. David Martinez having a good run to 5th. I think Peter Dempsey, after that spin, doing a strong job getting to 6th position. I had mentioned Colin Kaminsky early, coming from deeper in the field. He gets back into the top 10 in 7th. Prescott Campbell, a lot of action for Prescott, of course. That damaged wing early. He ends up in 8th. Flynn Lazier, after a very early spin, coming home in 9th. And even with the drive-through penalty after the contact for Daniel Frost, he wraps up the top 10.
And Rob, you're going to have post-race interviews. First up is Phil Dennis, who takes home yet another win.
Philippe, congratulations, man. A tremendous run for you. This time, though, challenged throughout the entire race by Braden Eves. Can you give me your thoughts on that battle throughout the race?
Yeah, it was pretty intense. We just we were in a channel together, so we were talking about working together and working together and just trying to build a gap to the other people, and it worked really well. And we just kind of helped each other out throughout the race. And towards the end, we decided to start battling a little bit, and then it was all about the last lap. Literally everything, I was calculating everything in my head for the last lap and trying to figure out what to do and how to get the perfect draft down the straight. So I let him by me going into at the end of the back straight, and he tried to get my draft coming across the line and just didn't have enough. So good win. I'm really happy with that one.
Well, Philippe, you did a fantastic job. Did what you needed to do. The strategy worked for you. Congratulations. 3 straight wins to start off the season.
Thank you.
Jonathan, tremendous run there for Philippe Dennis, as we said. And indeed, he did say straight up that he let it go. Hopefully, we've got a couple other drivers we can talk to. I know Braden Eves and Dudu Barrichello waiting in the wings. We'll bring them in to get an opportunity to talk with them as well. But for Philippe Dennis, just a super run for him. He gave to the line straight up, Jonathan. He let him by going into turn number 8 to make sure he had that run back to the checker flag.
Yeah, certainly. If you want to keep track of more post-race coverage with the voice of Road to Indy, Rob Howden, you can check it all out online, of course. And we'll say goodbye to our MAVTV Motorsports Network audience from Canada, Rob, in a moment's time. What a race it was. We'll speak to Braden Eves and Dudu Barrichello in a few moments' time. But Dudu, I just spoke to him behind the scenes while you were interviewing Phil, and he's very pleased with the 3rd position. He said he was going to Photoshop himself in somehow into the shot.
I love that. A great battle for him, though. And you know what? The fights up front were what we were hoping to see, right? Just great battles between Braden and Philippe. Of course, Philippe getting that race win. But then the fight further back, I thought was just tremendous as well, with Brooks in there and Barrichello and Dempsey. It was just fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we are going to leave you, if you're watching from our Canadian audience, if you're watching from the MAVTV Motorsports Network. Join us again in 7 days' time. You'll watch all the action from Road America. Post-race interviews coming up after this.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What a tremendous battle we had here. Round number 3 of the Ricmotech Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires eSeries here on the iRacing platform. My name is Rob Howden, joined by Jonathan Simone. A couple of drivers on the podium in with us here in the commentary booth. Let's start with Braden Eves. Braden, tremendous drive for you throughout the day. You and Philippe able to go back and forth. You pit at the same time, which kind of caught us off guard, but that worked well for you, even though Philippe was a bit quicker. Can you walk us through the last couple of laps? Because you went to the lead. I wonder if Philippe kind of told us he kind of opened the door for you, let you go by. What was your thoughts when that was happening?
Yeah, it's a little bit tough. It's so hard to predict exactly what's going to happen. And I mean, like going back to my younger karting days, like always learning a lot in the draft at like Newcastle Motorsports Park and like cadet karting, and all that stuff kind of adds up. But it's just really hard to predict how everything's going to play out. I tried to let him by and get in the tow, but I just let a little bit too much of a gap. So it was unfortunate, but good job to Phil. Again, it was a good race. I'm looking forward to the next one. I kind of figured out how to drive the car a little bit better. I think I had a little bit of better pace than Phil actually in that race, and even talking to him, he said I was a bit better in the infield for sure. So I'm looking forward to the next one. The pit, I don't know if you saw on the live stream, the pit entry, I tried to overtake him into the pits, but it was a little bit sketchy and we almost got into a little bit of contact, but it was really good. I'd like to thank the series for putting this on again, and all my sponsors, Anderson, Community Choice Financial, Houston Insurance, Modern Livery, Cambridge, Exclusive Autosport, Cooper Tires, and everyone for putting this on. Everyone that tuned into my stream, I was streaming the race, so thanks to everyone for putting this on. Good job to Phil, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Indeed, Braden, I'll tell you this. We were actually on board with you when you guys came out of turn number 12 and we're heading to pit lane. We watched that whole thing, you outrunning him. We were very surprised you were able to get it woed up enough and not get a pit lane speed penalty. But you got the job done. But I want to go back one thing before we head to talk to Dudu. You talked about the fact how you've evolved your driving style. I think everybody, of course, in the entire lineup is getting better and better, right? They're getting more seat time. What was it that you focused on? What was it that you've been able to change driving this Pro Mazda that's allowed you to really get up there and challenge with Philippe?
Well, actually, so I'm actually on a team. My teammate is one of the commentators, Apex Racing team. I was actually doing some F3 stuff with them in iRacing, and we were just running around in the car, and they were giving me some tips. I feel like I got a little bit worse at iRacing when I did a bunch of testing, and then went to St. Pete, and I started driving a bit more like real life. And there's just a couple things that are different from real life, and you gotta adapt. And I kind of got a little bit lulled into one driving style, but I changed it up. And I think I'm going to be right there for the rest of the season, but I should have been on it a little bit earlier, but it is what it is.
Jonathan, you got any input for your teammate? Oh, Jonathan must be up talking with one of our other drivers right now, getting things dialed in. Tremendous run again, Braden. Thank you very much for joining us. Excellent job. The championship most definitely heating up as we head to Road America.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to Dudu Barrichello, who runs with Pabst Racing. Dudu, congratulations on a tremendous run. You had some ups and downs. There were some issues. Can you walk us through your race a little bit?
Yeah, hello. It's a pleasure to be here again. Third time straight, so I'm pretty happy with it. This track it's very, very crazy actually, because if you're 1 second faster than anyone, and then you pull 1 second in the infield, whenever you get in the straightaway, if you're about 1 second behind, you can get him back. So it's very, very hard to get a gap. And I think I did an okay job working together with the other guys. I feel like I could have gone a little bit better again on my pit stop, so I have to practice that a little bit. But I touched with Christian Brooks. I'm very, very good friends with him. But I mean, racing is racing, right? So I guess I'll get photoshopped into third, right?
100%. We've just lost. I'm not Rob Howden. We've just lost Rob Howden for a second, so I'm going to have to take over this interview, Eduardo. But I totally agree. You've got to Photoshop you in, and somehow, of course, if you win this race ever virtually, would you ever drink a 3-liter bottle of milk?
No, because I would die, because I'm actually lactose intolerant, so that would cause me some bad stuff.
Take care of yourself. We got Rob back, by the way. Rob, you still there?
I am here. I'm not sure what happened there, Dudu. I apologize. But listen, if you ever do win the Indianapolis 500, you can always drink like almond milk or something like that, right?
Yeah. I'll make sure to tell them that.
Well, let's talk championship, Dudu. You're in a really good spot right now. You were P2 coming in. You're going to be in a challenge with Braden Eves. Both you and Braden really just have to go into Road America and the finale at Mid-Ohio and start winning races, right? Because somebody's got to beat this Philippe Dennis guy.
Yeah, I'm going to call Eves just right after that interview, and we're going to start practicing already now. No, I'm kidding. But we have to beat him. He's doing a fantastic job, so that's really it.
Well, congratulations on a tremendous battle. I know that we all hope to get back out and get racing soon. You'll be back with your guys from Pabst Racing, but congratulations on another great race here at IMS.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank Pabst Racing, obviously. I wanted to thank Ale Combustíveis, which they're helping me a lot. I wanted to thank AAA Esports that I just joined, so I really wanted to thank them. I want to say hi to my mom, my dad, my girlfriend, my brother. They're all watching.
Again, congratulations. Great to have you part of the program, and we look forward to seeing you next Saturday at Road America.
Thank you very much, guys.
Definitely a young driver who I've been watching for the last number of years. Still does a lot of kart racing. His dad, of course, Rubens Barrichello, the Formula One superstar, still behind the wheel on a regular basis, driving in karts and in the karting programs. So let's see if we can bring another driver in here, guys. What do we got? We've had a chance to talk to the drivers of top three.
We're gonna find someone in a second. I think Christian Brooks is waiting, who came home originally in third, but we're gonna bring him home in a second. But we've got a fastest lap of the race award to hand out, and this is brought to you by TSOladder.com, presented by Cooper Tires. That will go to Braden Eves for the first time this season. It won't go to Phil Dennis. Braden Eves, who set that fastest lap, Rob, on the third lap of the race when the tires were in their best nick.
Well, it just again shows that the more drivers in this paddock and this grid are starting to get better and better. They're closing up. Dennis came in as, of course, the high standard, right? He was the guy everybody was going to have to battle. Braden as well. Everybody's finding more speed. Braden, as he said, found more speed as well. I think this all plays for a really good, exciting battle at Road America, because if there's a track, any one of the tracks that offers so many passing opportunities, it's going to be Road America. I think that's going to be a great race next week.
Yep, certainly. That lap was a 1 minute 21.7. Very rapid lap around Indianapolis. Would love to jump into the Pro Mazda soon enough. And of course, new cars to be available soon on iRacing. We've got the Tatis, the USF 17, and the PM 18 ready to be represented on the iRacing service. But one man who's ready to represent himself, Rob, is Christian Brooks. You stood alongside him.
Yeah, let's talk here with Christian from Exclusive Autosport. Christian, you and I actually did an IG Live interview yesterday, and you were excited about getting to the race here today. And again, you obviously acquitted yourself extremely well. Ended up being third actually across the line. They gave you a penalty for blocking that we didn't see that online. You'll have to talk me through that a little bit. But overall, are you happy with the way things went today?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, I think we qualified 9th or 10th. I think 9th because I was on the inside. So yeah. P9, and then halfway through the race, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so halfway through the race, we found ourselves in the fight for P3. So it was me, Dempsey, and Barrichello, and we were just switching off drafts. And at first, it was me and Barrichello working together, and because Dempsey had that super early pit stop, and then I had a pretty slow pit stop. I'm pretty new to iRacing, so I'm still trying to figure out how fast you can dive into the pits without getting a penalty. And obviously when you're sitting in a position like in the top 5, you don't want to blow the pit lane and get a penalty. So yeah, we were battling with Barrichello, and then finally got a gap. They actually both ended up making little mistakes, and coming to the line, I had like a second gap coming onto the straightaway, and the draft's pretty massive here. And when Barrichello went to my outside, just before the line, I came up just a bit to try to see if I can get some of his toe, because there's side toe in iRacing as well. And we came into each other a little bit, which I'm not going to lie. I mean, it might have been a little bit on purpose, just a little bit of tire rub to keep me ahead for the line. But yeah, I mean, in my book, it's a P3, and I think we did pretty well for just getting into sim racing and starting to upgrade my equipment. Now I'm getting faster and faster every time I get on, so hopefully come the next race, we'll be fighting for the first position.
Well, I think that's exactly it, right? You've been dialing things in. You're very new to the iRacing program, and a couple of really good finishes will actually very likely put you into the top 5 in points. So what I always say is you never know what happens. Obviously, Braden Eves and Philippe Dennison, who's now the point leader, they're looking strong. They're good. But Road America, Mid-Ohio, anything could happen, and a DNF would blow things wide open. Are you looking forward to Road America? Do you have any laps on that track yet?
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, I have laps. Oh, well, I have almost laps on every track in iRacing, just because I like to test every track, and even seeing it on the real USF 2000 schedule, I was giving it a few laps of practice a few weeks back before we even knew about this Road to Indy series. So going to Road America, I'm excited simply because that's actually our first race back. So getting out there will be quite fun, and like I said, hopefully we get a good finish. I think I'm probably better there than I am at Indy. I think it suits my driving style a bit more. And it's crazy actually on the simulator that you can go to tracks that suit your driving style in real life and suit you on the sim as well. So it's pretty cool to see how that all works. But yeah, I'm excited for Road America, excited for Mid-Ohio, and it sucks that I had to miss the first race, but hopefully we can still bring it up to a top 5 in the championship.
Well, congrats on a great run, Christian. Well done.
All right, thank you, Rob.
So a tremendous run there again for Christian Brooks. He was pretty honest about the fact that he was doing whatever he could to keep Barrichello at bay coming across the line. A penalty knocks him down to 4th. Jonathan, I know we got a break coming here right now, but I think Brooks is going to be a driver we may see challenging for a race win before we're all done.
100%. Can't wait to hear what Peter Dempsey has to say about his race. We'll speak to him on the other side of this. You're watching round number 3 of the Ricmotech Road to Indy. It's an eSeries on iRacing presented by Cooper Tires. Don't miss our further post-race coverage.
It's me, your Uncle Cooper, and this is a Cooper tire. Great tire. Now, it's not going to cook you a pot roast, but it will stop when you hit the brakes. And these truck tires can stop on average 10 feet shorter than other tires on a wet road. See, the trick is in the grip. And these tires grip like my handshake. Look, I'm your uncle. I love you. I want you to stop when you need to. Doesn't matter if it's for a red light or a duckling. So go with the Coopers. Cooper! And never start something you can't stop.
Well, drivers had to put 45 minutes of total focus in to get to the end of this tremendous race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We've talked to the top 4 drivers so far, so let's grab the driver who finished P6 here today. Peter Dempsey, you're one of the team owners, Turn 3 Motorsports. Of course, I talked a lot about your resume and the major races that you've won. Man, you're in the middle of a pretty good battle with a couple of young guns there in both Brooks and Barrichello. You're holding your own. Pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, it was a good race. Obviously, with the draft being so big, it was just about being patient, and I was actually doing that a lot better than I normally would. And I lost Dudu about, I think it was 2 or 3 laps from the end, or a bit more than that maybe, and then I got caught up in the curb coming off at turn 2 and just looped me around. So up to that point, I think the three of us had a great race. It was pretty clean. A lot of big improvement, I think, from the previous 2 races.
Yeah, you come in 4th in points. Another good run there. You'll still be top 5. Still a chance at winning this championship. Looking forward to Road America?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll get a bit more time and look forward to the next one. And thank you guys a lot for putting this on.
Well, congratulations, Peter. It's a pleasure to see you back out on the racetrack. I've called a lot of your races over the years. It's nice to see you back on the racetrack again.
Good stuff. Thanks, lads.
Peter Dempsey, folks, again, a veteran driver of the sport, team owner, Turn 3 Motorsports. One more driver to get in before we get ready to cap off because we're almost wrapped up here with the broadcast today. Joining me now in the broadcast booth is Prescott Campbell, the young Californian who had an interesting day for sure. Prescott, a couple incidents here and there. You damaged the wing early on, which couldn't have made things easy, but you still come home with an 8th place finish. Walk me through your day a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of incidents there. Not ideal, but, I kept my head down. I pit as soon as I had enough room in the tank, cleared my damage thanks to the fast repair we get, and was able to work my way back into the top 10.
Overall, are you happy with your pace? Because you were right in there fighting, and I think we're going to see you potentially battling for the podium or maybe a race win when we get to Road America.
Yes, I think I'm really happy with my pace. I think it's definitely an improvement off last week at Circuit of the Americas. I was able to match my finishing position despite all the incidents that happened.
So you won the Lucas Oil School of Racing Championship last year. You got the scholarship to run with Exclusive Autosport this year in USF 2000. I know we're racing here on the virtual world, but how much are you looking forward to finally getting back behind the wheel when we get to Road America in June?
Oh, I can't wait, especially getting a little bit of a taste at the Homestead test earlier this year. I just really want to get a race weekend started.
Well, listen, congratulations, Prescott. Tremendous to watch you in the battle here. It was a lot of great 2, 3, 4 driver battles out there. You were in a bunch of them. Congrats on a P8 finish.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Prescott Campbell, Jonathan, a tremendous young man going to school for mechanical engineering at Oxford as well. He's kind of on this dual role. He wants to be a race car driver, but you know what? If that doesn't work and he's got to be a Formula One engineer, he'll take that as well. Pretty impressive.
All right. Well, I studied mechanical engineering for 1 semester and then I bowed out. So I chose a business degree instead. But there you go. Prescott Campbell can achieve what I never achieved in the Exclusive Autosport number 01 machine. Now it's time to go, Rob. What did you think about round 3? And we're heading to Road America for round 4. I always love Elkhart Lake.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to Road America. Tremendous track. For this particular race, I think my takeaways are the fact that a lot of drivers kind of turn things up. We had a bit of incidents. We had a couple wrecks. But for the most part, I think a lot of drivers getting better and better at the iRacing platform. We're seeing more drivers get close. Primarily, that battle between Yves and Philippe Dennis. So whatever Yves did to change how he's approaching it, he's in the championship battle now, and I cannot wait to get to Elkhart Lake.
100%. That next race at Elkhart Lake will be on Saturday, the 18th of April. So that's in a week's time in the same time slot. We hope we'll see you there for 45 minutes of racing action around Road America. And it hosts the 4th and penultimate round of the Ricmotech Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. It's the iRacing eSeries that pits our best young Road to Indy talent up against each other on the racetrack, all broadcasted on Apex Racing TV. We also want to say goodbye to everybody who watched this event, and we hope you enjoyed it if you were watching on the MAVTV Motorsports Network, and if you joined us online for our post-race coverage. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Rob Howden, the voice of Road to Indy, was alongside me for the coverage, and our entire team behind the scenes. Thanks, of course, to our partners behind the scenes of Cooper Tires, Extreme Motorsports 99, Symmetric Driver Performance Labs, and TSOladder.com. Our winner today, yet again, is Phil Dennis. Who's going to knock him off from the top step of the podium? We'll wait and see in a week's time. But he's looking towards winning this inaugural Road to Indy Ricmotech eSeries Championship.